Good morning, fourth graders. This is your Story Elements lesson for Thursday, October the 15th. Your objective for this lesson is I will analyze, meaning we're going to discuss, we're going to think about each element of a story. So analyze the elements of a story by completing your notes in Seesaw. You're going to add a response. So you're going to have this video pulled up, and you're getting really great at having the YouTube video pulled up on one tab and then the Seesaw website on the other by adding a response. You're going to be clicking Add Response. You're going to see this is the first page. There are 8 of them. The text boxes are going to be in red in Seesaw when you add a response, and you're going to be typing in the missing word. So in Seesaw, you have 8 pages. You have to complete all 8 pages with me. So as you watch the lesson video over story elements, we're going to be filling in the text boxes, the red text boxes in Seesaw. So the missing words, you will type in the red text box. You're going to follow along. So I will let you know when it's time to pause and to write in your text box. So on the slide, if the word is underlined in blue with this blue line underneath, you're going to pause, I will let you know, and you're going to type in the missing word on your notes in Seesaw. So let's get started. Story elements. So we have the following elements in a story. Whenever we think of a story, the genre is always fiction. It's a made-up story, and it has these parts, these elements: characters, problem, and the word conflict means the same thing as problem, solution, setting, theme, and point of view. We're going to be discussing these elements, and you're going to be writing in your text box as we learn about each one. We have these different genres. Before we start, we have fiction, meaning it's a made-up story. It has a character, a setting, problem, and solution. Nonfiction means we have real information, and we have text features, a title, subtitles, main idea, and details. For poetry, we have express feelings with words. We have lines and poems. Stanza is the group of lines in poems. They rhyme, or they could be free verse. A drama is told through spoken words. They have acts, scenes, a cast, dialogue, and script. So at this time, you're going to type in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. So notice how in your Seesaw, when you added the response, this is your first page. This text box, these 4 are red. So when you type in, your words are going to be in red. So at this time, I want you to pause. This is the slide that you should be on, and you're going to write the word made up right here. Real in this second text box. Express in the third text box. And the word spoken in the fourth text box. So you're filling in the blank. You're looking at the slide, looking at your page. It looks identical like this, and you're going to be typing in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. So at this time, pause, and I want you to write the word made up in the first text box, real, and you're not writing all of the words, just the words that are underlined. It's just one word for each text box. So made up for the first one, real, express for the third text box, and spoken for the fourth text box. So pause at this time and type in your text box. You're filling in page 1 in Seesaw. Now, let's move on to the next one. Within fiction, we have another genre called realistic fiction, meaning stories are made up, but it could happen in real life. We still have characters. The people act and talk like real people. The animals act like pets or other real animals. The setting is a place that could be real in today's world. So with the animals, if it's realistic fiction, they're not going to be talking. They're going to act like pets in real life. So realistic fiction means, look at the word real and realistic. It's a story that's made up, but it could happen in real life. The events could really happen. Characters have problems that real people might have, and the problems get resolved, meaning they get solved. So page 2 of your notes in Seesaw looks like this. Type in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. The word that you're going to write here is realistic. So at this time, I want you to pause, and I want you to write the word realistic in the text box on page 2. Now, let's move on to the next one. So this is a really important story element. Characters. Who? Characters are the people, animals, or things a story is about. Look for clues in the words and pictures to get to know them. What? Describe what characters look like and what they think, feel, say, and do. Why? Tell why they do what they do. So at this time, you're going to pause the screen and you're going to fill in the text boxes. For this one, your page 3 looks like this. So type in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. So at this time, I want you to pause on the characters page and I want you to type in the missing words. People, animals, things, look, like, think, feel, say, do, and why. So pause and then type in these words in each text box for page 3, the characters page in Seesaw. So now you've filled out your characters page 3 notes and we're moving on. Remember to write and type whenever I ask you to keep up. So another story element is a setting. That is where does the story happen, and when does the story take place? You have to ask yourself as a good reader, why is the setting important to the story? So for the where, that's the location. We have the woods, we have a castle, a spaceship. When, the time of day, like at night, back in time in history, the month, the season. So at this time, I want you to type in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. You have 2 words. The words that you have to write in are where for the first text box and when. Make sure that you write it in the correct spot. So this text box, type in where, and on the second one, type in when. When and where. And that's our setting, the location, where it takes place. So pause and then we're moving on to the next page. Now, the purpose of a setting, the reason why the author includes a setting in a story. It's used to create a mood or atmosphere, to show a reader a different way of life, to make action seem more real, to be the source of conflict or struggle, meaning the problem, or to symbolize an idea. You're not writing anything on this page. Now, a story, another element to a really good story, is a theme. A theme is a lesson the author wants us to learn about life. Like friendship is important, being kind, honesty, and hard work. Theme is the lesson the author wants us to learn about life. There's 4 steps. We have to think about the story's topic in order to find the theme. This is the first step. Think about the story's topic. Look for the lesson a character learns or can teach you as the reader. Use clues to figure out the message the author wants you to learn. Say the theme in your own words. So what I want you to do is type in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. There are 4 text boxes, the red text boxes for this page. Over theme, a story element. So pause your video and write the word lesson in the first text box, author in the second text box, life in the third text box, and friendship in the last 4th text box. At this time, pause and type in your text box in Seesaw. All right, so we know that a story needs to have characters, a setting, and a theme, a lesson. A story needs to also have a really important element is conflict. A conflict means the same thing as a problem. So conflict and problem are synonyms. A conflict is the problems the character faces. It could be one problem or a lot of problems, more than one. So these are two different kinds of conflicts, two different kinds of problems. Internal, meaning the character is trying to figure out something in their own mind. It's happening in their head, like if they're anxious, if they're worried, if the character is concerned or scared. That problem is within that character in his or her head. It's a self, internal. External, meaning the character faces a challenge from the outside world. Examples, other people, weather, or the government. So internal, look at the first part of internal. The word in, meaning it's inside of them. External, EX means on the outside. So EX means out, and then in means on the inside. So the problem the character faces is always the problem in conflict. So these are the different types of problems. We have man versus self, meaning it's an internal conflict. The struggle happens inside the character's head. For example, deciding whether or not to lie. A lot of you deal with this. Maybe you want to tell your parents the truth. Maybe you don't want to tell your parents the truth. Maybe you don't want to tell your teachers the truth. So a lot of you deal with internal conflict every single day, and that's a man versus self or woman versus self problem. We also have man versus man or woman versus woman. That's an external conflict. X means on the outside. A conflict happens between characters, two characters. For example, Harry Potter versus Voldemort. A man versus nature problem is an external conflict, meaning it's happening on the outside. A character struggles with a natural force, like an animal, a flood, tornado. Then our last external conflict, meaning it's happening on the outside of the character, is man versus society or woman versus society. A character's fight against social traditions or rules. For example, fighting for freedom. If you've read The Hunger Games, Katniss versus the Capitol. So once again, you're going to be filling in your text box. For this one, you have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Meaning the word problem is your first text box, the word character is the second text box, internal is the third text box, and external is the fourth text box. You're going to be writing in these 4 words: problems, character, internal, external, in the order that you see it on this slide. So at this time, please pause and fill out your text boxes. The word that's underlined is the word that goes in that text box. So pause. So now, we've talked about how a story needs characters, setting, theme, and conflict. A story also needs a solution, meaning a resolution. The word resolution and solution mean the same thing. The way that the character solves the problem. The loose ends are tied up at the end. The conflict is solved. So for this one, you have 3 text boxes for the word way, solves, and conflict. So type in the missing words in your text box at this time. So in Seesaw, type in the word way in the first text box, solves, and conflict. So pause and then type in your text boxes. All right, so now we have our next story element, point of view. Who is telling the story? What bias do they have? Meaning bias means like your own opinions. Can we trust them? We have 2 points of view that we're going to focus on. First person, meaning the narrator is a character in the story. And whenever you see these keywords, I, we, me, myself, you know that that story that you're reading, that book, is written in first person. And the narrator is a character in the story. They're taking the lead and they're telling the story. They're in charge. And you see the keywords I, we, my, self, and me. If it's in third person, the other point of view, that means the narrator is just watching the story. The way the author wrote that book is that the The narrator is just watching the story. The keywords would be the pronouns he, she, they, and them. So if you see the keywords, the pronouns he, she, they, and them, but as you're reading, you realize that the narrator is just watching the story as an observer, then it's written in third person point of view. So point of view, we have first and third person. At this time, let's look at this next point of view graphic. Once again, it's someone's point of view. Someone's point of view is the way he or she sees things happen. Who tells the story? Once again, we have first person. A person who is in the book is telling it. Look for the words I, me, and my. Third person, a person who is not in the book is telling it. Look for the words, the pronouns he, she, or they. For this one, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 text boxes. Type in the missing words in your text box in Seesaw. So at this time, the blue underlined words are going to be what you write in each of those text boxes. Go in that order. So story is the first text box, trust is the second text box, first, and then character, third, and watching. Write those missing words in your text box. So pause. That was the last story element. So once again, you should have completed all 8 pages in Seesaw by typing in the missing words in your text box. The words that were underlined in blue were the words that went in each of the text boxes. So to recap, our story elements, a very good story, a fiction made-up story, always needs to have characters, problem meaning conflict, a solution, a setting, theme, and point of view. You're going to be using these notes. I'm going to be uploading these slides for your story element task cards. So in Seesaw, your follow-up work is going to be the 1 through 10 story element task cards, and you're going to be using these slides from the lesson to help you with the task cards. And you can also watch this lesson again while you work on the task cards. Thank you, 4th graders, for paying attention, and I hope that you do really well on the story element task cards.